what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Mid-Level Media channel, your hub for everything physical media and entertainment. Today, guys, I am super excited because I get to talk about another one of my all-time favorite movies, a movie I watched probably 50 times when I was a kid on VHS. I love this movie so much, and that is the Addams Family Values. So I'm so excited that Paramount announced this one and decided to do it because we got the first one back in 2021, and I was really afraid it was going to be another one of those situations where a studio just did the first film and then they forgot about the sequels. So I'm so glad that they did the Addams Family Values, and I'm looking at you, Disney, with Home Alone 2. When are we going to get that? So happy we got the Addams Family Values on 4K. But the big question here, guys, is does this compare as far as the 4K quality and transfer to that beautiful restoration that came out back in 2021? I've said it before, but that first Addams Family movie on 4K, guys, it looked freaking outstanding. It's one of the best transfers, one of the best 4Ks that Paramount has ever done. And it was also approved by the director, Barry Sonnenfeld. And we'll get into that here when we talk about the 4K restoration of the Addams Family Values. But before we get into it, guys, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. We talk about all things physical media here on this channel. Blu-rays, 4Ks, owning the movies that you love, all that stuff there behind me every single day. So if you like that kind of stuff, that kind of content, be sure to hit that subscribe button. And I do want to say, guys, the Addams Family Values on 4K right now currently is $23.19 on Amazon, which I don't think is a bad price at all for a new Studio 4K. Now, I do want to call out the fact that the Addams Family came out on 4K back in 2021, like I said, and I think next year, I think a year later, it got a Steelbook release. So if you're a Steelbook collector, maybe you want to hold off on picking this one up because it's very possible that Paramount will do a Steelbook edition of the Addams Family Values on 4K at some point, just based on what they did with the first Addams Family. But let's just dive into it, guys. Let's talk about the movie. I like to talk about the movie for a little bit, then we'll get into the transfer, the special features, which there are new special features to talk about, packaging, all that good stuff. As far as this movie, guys, this may be controversial, but of the two Addams Family films, this one is my favorite. This is the one that I watched so many times as a kid. Not that I didn't watch the first one. I did watch the first one quite a bit when I was a kid, but Addams Family Values, there was just something like extremely fun and energetic about this movie when I was like 9, 10 years old. I just loved watching Addams Family Values. But I will say, like, having watched both of them recently on 4K, the first Addams Family probably is the better made movie, and they're both directed by the same director, Barry Sonnenfeld, so they both feel in line, like as far as the quality and the style and the tone. So I'm not saying there's a big drastic difference in quality here, but I think this is as far as the story and the writing, I feel like this is a more focused narrative, just focusing on the story of Fester, him reuniting with his family, how there's something going on with him and his mom, and them trying to deviously, plot to take over the Addams Family fortune. So there's that whole story, but it's very, kind of focused and seamless how they tell that story in this movie. And this is more or less centered around the Addams Family mansion. There's not really a ton of different locations in the Addams Family, where as the Addams Family Values, like, it's just very fast and frantic. Like, right from the beginning, they establish like 5 or 6 different plot points in the first 20 minutes of the movie. Everybody gets spread out, goes in different places. The kids go to summer camp. Morticia and Gomez stay at home. Fester gets married, moves off to another mansion. So it's all over the place in terms of its plot. But I just think this movie, there's just something about it. It has such an energy and a fun factor to it that I just can't help but like this one more and enjoy watching this one more than the first Addams Family, which I will admit the first Addams Family is fantastic. One of the big reasons why I think the first Addams Family is so fantastic is Raul Julia as Gomez. I think he's so good. And Angelica Houston as Morticia Addams. I think he's so good. I love how this movie kind of dives into their relationship and just what they mean to each other and all that stuff. But Raul Julia as Gomez, there's just something so like charismatic about him and charming and endearing. Him as a character, and the fact that he's the head of the household of the Addams Family just makes them all endearing by proxy to him. But I just love him in this movie, and that's the one negative I would say about Addams Family Values is you don't get a ton of Raul Julia as Gomez in this movie. Him and Morticia are more or less on the sideline. So that's a little bit disappointing. He does have some great moments and some scenes in this movie, but that's a little bit disappointing when I watch this compared to the first one. Like, if you want a great Raul Julia Gomez Addams performance, you go to the Addams Family, the original. If you want, crazy ass Joan Cusack as Debbie, which I love her in this movie. I think she's such a great villain. Like, that's one of the standout moments of this film. And also Christina Ricci as Wednesday, I think gets a real chance to shine in this film as opposed to the first one. And, Pugsley gets a little bit of a chance to shine, but honestly, he's kind of off to the side in this film as well. But I just think this movie, it's all over the place, but I think it's so much fun, and I can't help but like this one just a little bit more than the first Addams Family. I think most of that, honestly, is to do with Debbie as the psychotic serial killer character who wants to marry Fester and take the Addams Family fortune as well. It's always about the Addams Family fortune, guys. But I love how she comes in and can really go toe-to-toe with the Addams Family as far as like sinister and evil she can be, just kind of taking them on, and how they're just kind of like unamused and unaffected by everything that she's throwing at them, and then vice versa as well. I just think that's a really fun dynamic, and that's the reason this one kind of stands out to me. But Addams Family Values, I've loved it since I was a kid. I will always love this movie. Just recently rewatching it, like, it's still super fun. It's just such a great, family movie from the 90s. Now, getting into the 4K restoration, guys, this is a 4K, a native 4K with Dolby Vision HDR10. How does this compare to the first one? It looks great. Like, it looks perfectly in line with the first one as far as how it looks. The clarity is there for sure. Such great detail, such great depth of that HDR and that Dolby Vision, such great colors in the movie as well. And I just think it looks fantastic. It still retains a nice, grainy filmic look as well, for sure, which you want with some of these classic films from the 70s, the 80s, the 90s to kind of retain that classic film look. And this one absolutely does that. Where I think this one not necessarily goes wrong, because it's the movie itself. So I don't want to blame the restoration or make it look like I'm down on this restoration compared to the first one. I do think they're both in line, but this movie doesn't have the mansion in it as much. And that's really the setting of the first one is why that 4K really shine. And I think this one actually has a different mansion. It was a different location. And I don't think it's as big and grand and flashy as the mansion in the first one. It just doesn't have as many of those like really awesome, like spectacular sequences inside the mansion that just had so many so much visual appeal to that first one as far as the setting and just the aesthetic and everything that was going on. The great costumes, like there's so many, like they bring all the Addams Family relatives in the first one with that big party with all of them, all the costumes, all the set design. Like, I just think that the set design, the costumes, and all that stuff, the visual aesthetic is just much better in the first one than it is in the sequel, which is why I would say that the first one looks better on 4K than the second one. Not to say that the second one doesn't have its own, unique qualities to it to take away, because I think the summer camp setting is a great setting. Now, I've talked about it before. Summer camp movies look fantastic on 4K. Like a good summer camp slasher film on 4K, like The Burning, for example, looks excellent. So all the camp stuff, guys, when the kids go to summer camp, the scenery, the summer camp scenery and setting, like all that stuff looks great. The water, the trees, all that stuff looks fantastic. The Thanksgiving play they put on at the end when Pugsley comes out dressed as a turkey, like there's so many great colors and just visual quality to that scene, and it looks fantastic in 4K. So I can't take anything away from this 4K as far as the restoration. It's perfectly in line with the first one. I think the first one has more visual appeal and more opportunities to shine in 4K than the sequel does, which there's a lot of locations in the sequel outside the summer camp that are just not as visually dynamic and interesting as with that first one, which takes place primarily in that beautiful, gorgeous mansion. So that's what I'll say about the restoration. Great restoration. I just don't think it has as many chances to shine as the first one does. Now, I didn't get a chance to ever watch the Blu-ray. I never bought it. I was actually shocked to look when I looked up on Blu-ray.com, and this kind of explains why I never got it. The Blu-ray only came out in 2019, I think along with the first one as well. So they did the Addams Family Values Blu-ray in 2019. Then they did a double pack with the first one as well, which I think came out the same year. So that came out on Blu-ray just back in 2019. I think at that point when I saw those come out, I was just like, look, I feel like they're going to do a 4K at this point. They were really kind of upgrading a lot of stuff at that time. So I just told myself that I would wait for the 4K editions, and I had to wait quite a long time, but I did finally get both of these films on 4K. So I can't speak to the quality of that Blu-ray edition. I'm sure it looks fine since it's a more recent Blu-ray, but this 4K and that 4K honestly like has to blow both of those Blu-rays out of the water in terms of picture quality. So is this a good looking 4K? Absolutely it is. I think Addams Family Values, it looks fantastic on 4K. Now getting into the audio, guys, you do have the 5.1 in English, and then you got the 2.0 in multiple language options, but it is not available in English. So you have the 5.1. I don't think this is a movie you need a Dolby Atmos upgrade, so 5.1 sounds great. The score is fantastic. The sound design is great, and there's no issues there as far as the sound. Getting into the packaging, guys, I'm going to show off this slipcover right here. I believe this is the original poster to Values, which I do like that quite a bit. I'm glad that they went in that direction with the artwork on the slipcover right here. I value that from Paramount because the first one, guys, it's an okay slip, and they were kind of promoting the more Mamushka edition here. But I don't like this artwork and the way that the family looks together on this, like I do this more classic look of the Addams Family. So I appreciate they used the original poster. And then you got the first time on 4K Ultra HD banner at the top underneath the 4K banner right there. Flip it to the side, you got the Addams Family Values on the side with the 4K Ultra HD and the Paramount logo. On the back right here, you have some images from the film. You have the special features. You have the synopsis at the top. You got some of the specs and some of the other stuff there at the bottom. We'll take it out of the slipcover, guys, and they actually have alternative artwork on the inside, which is super cool and something you don't get a lot out of the studio. So you got to appreciate that when you get it. And I love the purple aesthetic. I think that's super awesome. Flip it on the back. You got the casting list, which is not on the slipcover. Opening this up, guys, you only have the 4K, which Paramount is very inconsistent with what they decide to put out 4Ks and Blu-rays and then just 4Ks for. It feels like The Ring just came out. It got a 4K and a Blu-ray. So, I mean, I'm not going to complain when I get the Blu-ray, but it's just like, come on, Paramount, just pick a side and run with it, which, like I said in the opening, guys, the price for this is very affordable. So I think it's fine they just include the 4K if it brings the cost down. But, you know, I do like to have both, especially if I'm reviewing it. I would have liked to have referenced that Blu-ray in comparison to the 4K. But you got the digital code, you got the 4K disc right there, just a plain disc. So packaging wise, guys, look, I'll give it to them. I like the original poster. I like the alternative artwork on the inside. I think that's super cool. So some good packaging right there. As far as the special features, you have two all new special features here. You have a new audio commentary with the director Barry Sonnenfeld and writer Paul Rucknick, and you have Crafting Family Values, which is a collection of older archival interviews, but those interviews have never been seen or never been put on a disc before. So it is a brand new special feature, but it's a collection of older interviews on that. When I started watching, I'm like, is this new? Is this old? I had to read back in the press materials for this release to figure out that they are older interviews, but they're kind of edited together to kind of retrospectively look at this film and the actors and what they were going through at the time of filming. Because some of these interviews, like Raul Julia is in this, they are interviews on set as they're filming the movie. And then I think some of the interviews are years later because some of the actors and actresses look a little bit older than they did when this movie was filmed. So just a collection of interviews spanning years of time. So it's a really cool feature though, and I'm glad that they were able to kind of pull all that stuff together to put it out on this disc. It definitely ups the value of this release. I mean, again, you don't get a lot of new features on studio releases. So when you get something, you got to be a little appreciative of that for sure. But overall, guys, look, I do recommend this, especially if you're a fan of Addams Family Values. If you like the first one on 4K, I think you'll enjoy this one on 4K as well. I think Paramount did a good job, and you have those new features. And, you know, it's just a solid release. So I do recommend this if you're interested in the film. I will link it down below in the description, an Amazon link. So definitely appreciate you watching this review, guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Turn on those bell notifications for all future videos. Comment down below, guys. What are your thoughts on this movie? Do you plan on picking up the 4K? And follow me on all my social media accounts down below in the description, guys. And we'll see you next time.